morning again, Living Church.
Good morning, Living Church.
Oh yeah,
He's
there it
Mike
is.
for power.
The power,
There
man.
it
So
is.
glad that you're here for week 1 of Marriage Rescue. That skit was stressing me out a little bit because every once in a while we have those kind of interactions going on. Every once in a while we find ourselves in a fight and a difficulty that we don't want to be in, and that's why we're talking about marriage today.
Yeah,
Yes.
right. No, we're in this series. We're talking through some stuff. It's been a heavy 18 months, I think, in the world. And I know for us, it's caused some chaos in our home.
Yeah, this external pressure has caused some internal pressure.
That's true.
right?
Yeah, it has.
You know, here at Living Church, we know that it takes 2 to tango.
Right.
That for us to have a happy, healthy, functioning marriage, that it takes us both understanding each other's perspective. And so one of the things we like to do throughout the year when we do a marriage series is to just have some conversation. So
Yeah.
it's not just from a male perspective or from a female perspective, but we have some ideas and some talks about what we've experienced and what we've walked through. And so in the past, we've done a lot of different marriage series.
Yeah.
We've done
Right.
one called Greener Grass,
Yeah.
about how you can look at other people's marriage and always think that the grass is greener, but when you really get into it, it's only greener because it's covered in manure, right? And so they got some problems. Then we did another one called Marriage Mixtape.
That's
and
right.
About how you have to put what's the playlist of your marriage and stuff.
Yep.
What are you dancing to? And so that was a really good one. And then now,
Now we're doing,
Marriage Rescue, because the last 18 months
it's been tough.
have been a train wreck, y'all.
That's right.
All of us have had these external pressures and difficulties that have come in that cause a lot of difficulties for us.
Yes.
Right. All the feelings, by seeing all the things happening in the world and experiencing, can cause us to react and act under pressure and be kind of in our feelings.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I think that we've seen people, man, in the last year, we've had people with lost jobs, people with sickness, people with family struggles, with politics,
Right.
and the things that are happening on the news. Good grief. The list goes on and on of things that make us all kind of feel overwhelmed, and then the pressure gets intense. But I think it's important to know that, like, we've been hearing that from everyone.
Yeah.
Right.
all
It's not
over the
just
place.
like if you've been struggling,
Yeah.
you're a weirdo. No, we've all
If
been
you're
having
having
a hard time.
you're not alone.
That's
you're
right.
in good company, right?
Absolutely.
And so prepping for the series, we threw out kind of a question to you guys. Like,
Yeah.
can you help us know where you are and what
Yeah.
you've been walking through? And so we've received hundreds of questions,
So
whether
many.
in email form or social media comments or people just coming and asking or in marriage counseling conversations. And
Right.
they all start sounding a lot the same, that we're carrying some of the same things.
No, it's
Yeah.
true. We kind of lined them up together. We put them in categories, and then we found that there's like some overarching things that we're going to be talking about over the next few weeks.
Yeah. So we're going to be talking about parenting.
Yep.
Any parents in the room? We're going to be
Come
talking
on.
about that, about how to navigate some issues when it comes to parenting. We're going to be talking about sex.
Let's
Come on,
talk
somebody.
about it.
Let's talk about it.
Let's
We're going
talk
to talk
about
about that. It's a big part of marriage. We're going to talk about money. One week, it's the leading cause of divorce in America. We're going to talk about navigating finances. We're going to talk about infidelity.
Right.
We know that a lot of people in Living Church have had seasons where someone stepped out of the marriage, and that caused a lot of pain and difficulty and hurt.
Yeah.
Then we're going to talk about singleness.
Yeah.
I know we got some single people in the room. If you're single, raise your hand.
All the single ladies.
Everybody look around, look
Not a
around,
single
look
man.
around.
Yeah.
Don't
You're
ever
here.
say Pastor Trust never
Come
did
on.
nothing for you.
No, that's right.
So,
We're about to give you the keys
yeah.
to success.
Yeah, get a date
Or
after
unsuccess.
Get a date after church. And so we're going to talk about not just singleness, but about how to work on us.
Yeah.
If we would work on us,
Right.
then that would prepare us to step into that relationship.
No,
that
it's
God
good.
has.
It's good. But today, we're talking about fights, feuds, and fury.
Oh, man.
Anybody ever been in a fight with their spouse?
A little bit.
Anybody? We got a bunch of liars in the
I was
second
gonna
service.
say, come on now. I'm not blind here. I only saw like 2 or 3 hands. And
Yeah.
I'm like, no.
We're
these people
talking
are lying.
about fights, feuds, and fury.
Oh,
because we
man.
find ourselves there. We love each other, but yet we find ourselves in these moments where we're fighting and there's conflict and
Yep.
there's difficulty. And so many of the questions we've received have surrounded this idea of navigating fights. It's a
Right.
really easy one to start
Easy.
with.
Oh,
It's a
real
super
easy.
easy one to start with, right?
But we realized that if we're going to be talking about money, parenting, sex,
True.
all these big ideas, maybe we should talk about fights first.
Yeah.
Because what I don't want us to do is have a conversation about parenting, and then you get in your car and you're just fighting on the way home
Right.
without some of the tools that we're going to talk about how to fight Right.
No, inevitably over the next several weeks, some issues are going to arise.
Yeah.
And we want you to be equipped and ready to handle it well rather than to get more frustrated and need more rescue over the
For
next
sure.
few weeks.
For sure. And so there's been a whole bunch of questions that have came in
Yeah.
that people have asked.
No, and so we're just going to read through some of them and then start talking about it, and because we recognize that these kind of things are all issues that a lot of us are facing. So we picked some of the top 7 to read through, but I think it's important. You talked about it earlier this week. You said, now we got to help them remember that elbows don't need
Yeah.
to be flailing at each
Yeah,
other.
you got to put the elbows away. I remember when we did Marriage Mixtape,
Yeah.
and we got the opportunity of joining you guys and talking about it up here on Sundays. And when I looked out, I saw plenty of elbows coming out
Right.
and starting to dig into the ribs of the spouse and some harsh, brash looks at the spouse.
ooh, they talking to you.
Exactly.
Right,
They're
right.
reading your mail, spouse.
Right,
Watch
or
out.
big
Better be
amens.
listening up.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, the big amen.
That's what.
Aggressive
They're like,
amens.
amen.
Yeah.
That's a good word.
That's right.
Right.
So this is our goal of saying, hey, keep the elbows in.
That's right.
Keep the look straight ahead, and then you just talk about it cordially later.
Because the best way to fix your marriage starts with you.
Oh, that's
Right.
right.
The best way for me to have a healthy relationship with Aaron
Yeah.
is for me to be willing to look at me and see
for
what's
sure.
going on.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so, man,
We wanted to start with the other person, though. I want the
Oh,
problems
yeah.
in our marriage to be fixed.
Yeah.
Really, the problems in our marriage need to be fixed. See, I know she's giving
I
that
see
crazy
what's
eye.
going on out there.
truth is-
I hear it.
If we would all just work on the stuff in us,
Yep.
yeah,
Oh, that's
Right.
true.
Just be
So-
glad my shoes are tied down today.
she can't throw
Yeah,
throw
she
them at
can't
you
pull her
because
shoe off and throw 'em at
she
you,
got them
bro.
strapped on. But hey, as we read
No,
through
we're
these
not.
questions, let's be intentional to evaluate. Maybe we've felt that way,
Yeah.
or maybe we are walking through this. So
Tell
first
some
is,
of the questions that we got.
do y'all ever fight? This is to the 4 of us. Do we ever?
You ever fight?
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
Never.
Never.
Well,
It says, well, I feel like I see you all on Sundays and you look so happy like you never fight. What they don't know is lots of Sundays we be fighting right there. We just be like this, huh?
bro.
Yeah, no, be
Right.
quiet. No,
Whitney,
you be quiet.
you're not supposed to be telling them
I'm
that.
just telling them the truth. I'm being honest. It says your Instagrams are always smiling. You look so happy and put together. How? Is that for real?
yeah, I mean, I think we're happy.
Yeah.
We have a lot
Sure.
of fun and we do a lot of exciting things.
I mean, like anyone, we're not going to post negative stuff out there
Right.
about how
and
my
plus
spouse is
Whitney
scrub.
tells us we can't eat if we don't smile. So
It's true, y'all.
That is true.
If you don't smile, you don't eat. Come on now.
a rule.
I've heard you all say you fight from stage and on your podcast, but how? How do you fight? And that's a great question, I think. What's another one?
Our house feels like we're at a boiling point. One little thing sets us off. What do we do? That's a good
We've
one.
definitely been there.
here's another one. When we fight, we yell and scream and curse and sometimes throw things. And I know that that can't be good, but how do we get out of this crazy cycle?
And man, we had a lot like that.
Right.
Where people were transparent. Thank you for being transparent in your
Yes.
questions. Where they said, man, our house is banana pancakes right now. Like, we're going throwing stuff and
Yeah.
screaming and cursing at each other.
Right.
And if we're in that, man, you're in the right place.
Yeah,
Yep.
this one says it feels like when we fight, nothing is off limits. We bring up the past, we bring up other relationships. He compares me to his ex, to my mom, even to other women he thinks are better than me. Bro, what you doing,
That one
man?
will get you in trouble every time.
Yeah, that's a fast pass to, well,
Chaos.
Yeah, chaos. But then after he says it, he says he didn't mean it like that. And I think we've all experienced those moments where we're like, I didn't mean it like that.
right. Sounds good. now.
Another question that we got is this. Someone said, I was really excited about SummerSlam because my marriage feels like a Royal Rumble. That's how I imagine they wrote it. Once someone is mad, ding, 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 let's get ready to rumble.
Oh, man.
How do we stop hurting each other?
Yeah.
And I think that that's a great question, that we find ourselves in these arguments or in these frustrating moments, and then we end up hurting the person that we love the most because we're not really navigating our frustrations properly.
Right. But I mean, fighting is going to happen. It's inevitable because we're humans
Right.
who are going to disagree.
Well, let me ask you, did you grow up in my house? When I grew up?
When you grew up? No.
You
I'm
didn't
in your
grow up
house
in my
now, but I didn't grow up in the house you grew up in.
Was I around? get raised in your house when you grew up?
No. We came from very different environments, different
did.
parenting styles, different circumstances.
That's right.
And we're different individuals.
Yes.
I have my opinions and my thoughts. You have your opinions and your thoughts.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And we don't always agree.
Yeah. And so if you've ever been in a fight with your spouse, you're in great company. As a matter of fact, the very first couple in all of the Bible and in all of history, they would fight with each other. Adam and Eve.
Yeah.
You might be like, what? Adam and Eve fought with each other? Yes. They went from just being naked and making babies in the garden, eating fruit. Come on, somebody, that sounds good to me. To then all of a sudden having this conflict and arguments in their marriage. You know, God gave them this one rule, and he gave us a rule so we would have the capacity to obey and worship, and they broke that rule. And right when sin entered their relationship, they got into a fight. The Bible says this in Genesis chapter 3, verse 12. The man said, this is to God, the man said to God, the woman you put here with me, she gave me some fruit from the tree and I ate it. The first thing that he does is he starts playing the blame game.
Right.
And this is what happens in our relationships is we get into fights because we start having blame transfer.
Yeah.
Right.
We start saying, no, this problem's not my fault.
Right.
This problem is your fault.
Right.
And this is what Adam does in the very beginning. And then Eve goes on and she says to God, no, it wasn't me, it was the snake. We start blaming the devil. Maybe the devil isn't the problem in your marriage. Maybe it's you.
Yeah,
right?
that's
Like
right.
maybe there's some attitudes, some things in us that we need to deal with.
No, it's true. And I think we have to ask the question, why did they start blaming? I think they started blaming because they were afraid.
For sure.
That they were afraid that God had placed them in this beautiful place and he'd given them one rule and they didn't follow it.
Yeah.
And so they're afraid now that they're going to lose relationship with God. They're going to lose the good blessings that God had given them. They're going to now be punished. I think there's a lot of fear that they were feeling, so they start blaming.
Yeah, they were definitely afraid. And I think that fear is the foundation of all fights.
Yeah.
That when you get into a fight with your spouse, it's because there's something you're afraid of.
Right.
There's something that you're feeling or experiencing
Right.
that's triggering some stuff inside of you internally that's causing you to act in a certain way. And it's
Yeah.
not like regular fear.
No, it's not like it's a scary movie type fear.
No, it's not like I'm about to get jumped in a dark alley fear.
No. Or tigers chasing me.
No, right.
Oh, I'm fearful.
No. But there's this like uneasy, uncomfortable, I don't feel safe
Right.
in this moment. I don't feel right. And so we start lashing out.
Yeah.
No, I think we don't even always like to admit that we're afraid. Like we don't even, maybe even realize that we're afraid. But there's different things that we can be afraid of based on our circumstance, based on the environment we grew up in, based on our past, our upbringing, our things that we've experienced, our previous pains and hurts. And so we need to take a minute to look at some pain, some of the things we might be afraid of as women and as men.
Yeah, and as men and women, it's different.
I think so.
I think that there's some crossover.
Yeah.
But I think that for Rachel and I, that if we have conflict, there's things that get triggered in her that are different than get triggered in me.
Right.
But then we find ourselves in this confusing. Have you ever been in an argument and you don't even really know what you're arguing about?
Right.
But y'all are both ticked.
Right.
Right.
Look, dude's raising his
I know,
hand like,
I know.
me,
They're
right here.
double hand.
Please, Pastor,
your
help
hand out.
me,
Yeah.
right?
It's true.
It's because there's some stuff going on in the inside
Right.
that we're going to unpack today.
Yeah.
So, Whit, what are some of the, you and Rachel talked, what are some of the things
so
that
some
ladies
of
are
the
navigating?
things that women, we're kind of naturally afraid of. I think one is being disconnected with our spouse,
Yep.
that he's not connected to me, that he's disconnecting from me. Not being loved is like that's a big one, that we want to be loved, not being heard, not being valued, and not being appreciated.
It's an important list.
It's a big list. I think as women that these are things that really can trigger fear in us if we start to not feel, if we don't feel appreciated, if we don't feel heard or loved. And so I know the disconnected one, when we talked about it, it really resonated for me because I've shared here before that when I turned 30, my parents got divorced, and that caused a whole lot of fighting and chaos between us. It caused a whole lot of pain and frustration of me saying, and fears of me saying, like, are you going to do what he did? Are you going to leave? Or all of these things. But I recognize now that actually earlier on in our marriage, I was fighting some of those same fears, even though I hadn't yet experienced that trauma, because I could see that my dad for years had been disconnected from my mom. That he had been disconnected from her dreams and her plans, her goals in life, that he was kind of doing his thing and she was kind of doing hers, and they weren't really on the same team. And I think that there's been times where it was small stuff that I felt like, are you not with me?
Right.
Are you disconnected from me? Are you giving more time and attention and energy to that instead of me? Are we disconnecting? And it would cause these giant fights over very small things because I was so fearful of disconnection.
No, and the disconnect really causes a lot of issues internally in your mind and doubt, and it leads you to act and react and drives you in a tunnel and a whirlwind of fear.
Yeah.
And for me, you know, that was what's happening in my family. There was disconnect, and my mom was a stay-at-home mom, and so I would see that she would feel not valued. And so she would clean and cook and do all of the things while my dad was at work. And it was almost like she was a housekeeper more.
Well, she wasn't valued.
Right.
She was almost a servant.
Right. She was more of a housekeeper than a lover or a wife. And so for me, seeing that, I was almost looking to see if that was happening to me in my marriage. And so when Trustin started working more full-time and I was working, I was staying at home, I started to kind of look for signs to see if that was happening to me in a way. And so the fear drove me to not want to iron his stuff. Whenever he was in a hurry and just needed help, I would just be like, no, I'm not ironing your things. You can do it. You got it.
Yeah.
Because I had this fear of it all happening to me and not feeling the value that I deserved.
And so we would find ourselves in really frustrating conversations.
Yeah.
Because Rachel wouldn't want to serve me because that made her felt like a servant.
Right.
But that was because of a fear of feeling devalued
Right.
from something that happened previously in her life.
Right. And so it's easy to do, though, because he just needed help because he was probably getting up late and, hello, I'm his wife. I should serve him. And he served me. But that fear, man, the lack of value, man, it'll.
No, I think that lack of value can translate in lots of different ways, that maybe you feel not heard, and that makes you feel not valued, not appreciated. I know for me, there's been times that I've gotten so angry just because Aaron didn't remember the date or time of a birthday party that we were going to.
Right.
And I would feel like, well, you're not no to me. So clearly you're not hearing me. So my voice must not matter in your life. And the fear no, I'm better with dates and times
Now,
than
after
he is.
years of marriage, you're learning that men are dense. I am dense. Men are dense. So most of the things that y'all are throwing at us are going over our heads and not even getting into our ears.
Well, and some of the details, just because I can't hold on to the details doesn't mean that I don't hear you.
Correct.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
I might miss a detail.
No,
It's just 'cause I'm dense.
but the fear in me was that I wasn't being heard.
Right.
And that my voice didn't have as much weight and value in your life.
Yeah, it's
and
good.
I had to identify that was a fear, not reality.
Right. Or the fear of not being appreciated.
Yeah.
That you do so much, take the kids to the practices, clean the house, do the dishes, and then the dishes are all left, not in the sink, so I can put them in the dishwasher, but in the counter next to the sink. It would take 2 steps, right? One more second, not that we do that at home.
Not that that ever happens. Never.
But it's you start feeling like, oh, I'm not being appreciated.
Right.
He doesn't even care that I do that, or he doesn't even see what I do, and where's the thank you? It's like I spent 2 hours doing laundry, and then he says thank you, but the thank you, it's almost not good enough because I have this fear that the 2 hours I took of doing the laundry and the 2 seconds he said thank you wasn't like the Hallmark movie that I saw where he brought flowers and massaged the feet and did all the things, right? But it's the fear that drives us to not feel appreciated.
Right, because I may say thank you,
Right.
But yeah, that 2 hours to 2 seconds, it feels like there's something that scales out of balance in that
Right.
moment.
Right.
And it makes you feel not appreciated.
Right.
And then that causes a fear and a trigger.
It causes us to be afraid that you're not in love with me anymore,
Right.
that you don't love me most. And I think that that is where so much reaction can come in fighting, because we just want to be loved.
Right.
We're yelling, but yet we're asking really for love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a great list. Women sometimes, they have this fear of being disconnected or not loved, like you just
Yeah.
said, not heard, not valued, not appreciated. I think for guys, it's some different feelings.
Yeah, it looks a little different, doesn't it?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
We're afraid of feeling helpless. If a man feels helpless, he's going to get frustrated. We fear being controlled. We fear being seen as a failure.
Right.
And we fear feeling not respected. And when those fears start to bubble up in us, we start acting in a way that always doesn't make sense.
No, you're exactly right. One of the first ones you had mentioned that really caught my ear was being controlled.
Yeah.
Men typically don't like being controlled. And so I recall one of the recent arguments, spirited conversations that Whitney and I had was over a text message. I was texting my friend. And so I remember Whitney and I went and took our son Easton to college on a tour, on the campus tour, and just finished up. And my wife, being the awesome planner that she is, wants to know what's next always. And so she says, hey, text your friend, find out what's going on. Trust and I were supposed to meet up. And so I did. I sent him a message and I told her that. And when I sent her that message right after we were done and driving out, I said, look, no, I texted him and all that. And she's like, wait a minute. Look, it wasn't delivered. It wasn't. I said, no, I hit send. It's delivered. I know how to work a phone. I know how to text. You know. She says, no. Look, your Wi-Fi was not right or something. It didn't show delivered.
Right.
And so as we're talking, she's starting to say things that I'm hearing her say, but she wasn't saying. So I'm thinking, I'm being controlled. She's telling me how I'm supposed to text, and I know what I'm doing, but I'm just getting frustrated because I feel like she's controlling me. She's trying to control me.
Trying to
And
make you felt like I was trying to make you do it my way.
Absolutely.
I was just trying to help.
I felt like you were trying to make it do my. And so as we talked quite a while later, I
Right.
realized,
Quite a while
no,
later.
she wasn't trying to be controlling, but I sure felt like she was.
Yeah.
And so that's not a big deal.
No.
It was
Sending
yeah,
a text
it's not.
message to me is not a big deal.
No.
But because it brings up all these feelings of, wait a second, are you trying to control me?
Right.
It starts to do
Are
something.
you saying that your way is the only way? Your way is better than my way? Your way is the best way?
Nah,
that's
bro.
not- but that's not what
bro.
she's saying.
But
It's
it's
just
not.
not delivered.
Right.
That's
Now, for
all I was
me,
trying to tell you.
For me,
That's all she's trying to tell me. I don't know, guys.
for me, that one of feeling helpless is something that I'm afraid of getting into.
That's good.
That I don't ever want to feel like I can't fix it. As men, we're fixers.
Yeah.
If we see a problem, we want to solve a problem.
Right.
And so for Rachel and I, we've had a bunch of different times that no matter what I do, it feels like I can't not lose. Like I can't fix this situation.
Yeah.
Recently we got Rachel a newer car, but previous to that she had an old car. And man, it was a problem I couldn't fix because Rachel would always leave down the visor and the little mirror open with the light on,
Yeah,
which means that her battery would be dying all the time.
my bad.
Yeah, you're bad. All the time. Her battery would be dying. I'd put new batteries in it, would fix it, she'd leave a door open or the trunk open or lights on or something. And so constantly, Rachel's car is dead in parking lots. Constantly.
I don't know how.
It's dead in the garage, it's dead in the church parking lot. No matter where I am, I'm gonna get a phone call that Rachel's car battery is dead. And it's not the car battery,
Right.
it's operator error. And so I would get so mad, but it had nothing to do with the battery or the car. I know how to fix all that stuff.
Right.
I'm good at all that. There was this problem I couldn't solve. And when I found myself feeling helpless,
Right.
it made me really frustrated.
No, that's really good. That's a good one. Another one for me is being seen as a failure. No man wants to be seen as a failure, right?
Right.
No women do either, from what I can
True.
tell. But as a man, it's
a
almost
different trigger.
personal.
Yeah.
It's like, oh man. And so another example for me recently was when we're getting back into school year. We're trying to get back on track. Okay, there's a curfew. We have teenagers in place. We want to make sure that they're coming home in a reasonable hour. And so recently, one of the kids, day number 2 from school, they're coming home after curfew, and they're not home yet. So I'm talking to Whitney. I'm like, hey, it's 10 o'clock. They need to be. Where in the world? What's going on? And so as I'm venting to her, just the two of us, I'm saying, man, when they get home, we're gonna have to have a conversation. We're gonna have to have a talk. We're gonna have to tell them, hey,
Reel
listen,
this in.
school's back in session. You need to be home by a certain time.
Yeah,
And
come
as
on,
I'm-
McKinley.
McKinley. No,
Pull it
McKinley's
together.
She's doing good. I think it's that the oldest one now is one who's stretching his limits.
It was funny was that it was right at the time they were supposed to be home,
Right.
and it was both of them that weren't there yet, and you were
Correct.
like going on a tangent about how
I-
we had to get everything under control quickly, or it was going to get out of control.
Right.
And,
so
all I said,
as I'm talking to you about it, she says, hey, you're sounding real hostile. You're sounding like aggressive. If you go at him with that, nothing's going to be
No,
good
right.
that comes out of it.
Right.
And I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. Hold on a second. This is not me saying that this is how I'm going to talk to them. I'm just talking to you, my wife. And so as I'm talking with her, I'm starting to get offended. I'm starting to feel like, well, wait a second. I know how I'm going to say this. I know that I've worked really hard. I'm a good father, I think, and I know how I'm going to present this to him. But I felt like my wife was seeing me as a failure as far as I'm not going to do it right. I'm not going to say it right. I'm going to cause a big argument because my approach to this is going to be bad. And so that's what I'm hearing.
so my soothing words were actually fighting words, and
Right.
that's what happened
It's
in the
true.
moment. Yeah.
And
Because
so-
as guys, we want to do it right.
Yes.
We want to make y'all happy.
Right.
We want to make everything copacetic.
Correct.
But then we feel like sometimes, no matter what we do, we can't.
Yeah.
We're just being told it's a failure
That's
no matter
right.
how
we'll
hard
hear
we try.
words that aren't said. That's
Right.
for sure.
I think
Yeah.
the last one on that list was not feeling respected. Is that we can find ourselves in moments where it feels like we're not receiving respect.
Yeah.
And it's usually not Rachel's trying to disrespect me, but that I just don't feel like I'm being respected.
Right.
Right.
Here's a simple example. If I come home and I want to make something to eat, then I go and start pulling stuff out of the fridge.
You pull all of it out.
I pull it all. I'm making dinner. I'm about to do it right. I know how to make something.
Dagwood sandwich, baby.
Come on now. And so I pull it all out. I got all the Tupperwares and the sauces and the chips and all the things and salt and pepper. I've got it all out. And then I go and sit down and eat because my food's made. It's time to eat. And so I go and
That's right.
eat. And Rachel comes in and she says, "Are you going to put all this away?" I'm like, "Yes, but I'm going to eat my sandwich first." But then while I'm eating my sandwich in peace, I just keep hearing about how I need to put it away. Well, this makes me feel not respected because I put it away every time. I put it away every time. And so I'm gonna put it away, but it rises
that one
something
time you
up.
didn't put it away.
Except for that one time in 1986 that I didn't put it away. And
When
so
Preston was
there's
3
these
years old.
there's these moments. I was four. Yeah. There are these moments in marriage where if a man feels not respected,
Yeah.
it causes gasoline to get poured on the emotions that are already there. And then now we're in a fight that we shouldn't be.
Well, what I realized is what I was doing is trying to get it all back clean. But then what I didn't realize is that I was making him feel like I was picking on him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the cheese was out and the whole list was out. But I would go down
The
the
whole
list of saying, are you going to put this away? Are you going to put this? But I
But
was
like I'm
picking
home
on him.
from worked all day. I'm trying to sit down and eat something, but now I've got a whole list getting thrown at me that I already know it has to get put away. Yeah, it makes us feel picked on, and the problem isn't with Rach.
Right.
The problem is with how I'm receiving the information.
Right.
But when we can capture our thoughts and realize I'm not being disrespected,
Yeah.
I'm not being controlled,
Right.
I'm not helpless,
Right.
then we can calm the junk down.
Well, and we can take some time to really understand that some of the fear is based in some of our past failure or some of our spouse's past failure of the way we've done conversation
For sure.
and before. And so the fears come from our human nature, from past relationships, from different environments. And I think that we have to recognize that everyone is fearful of being rejected. And that's where the fear comes from. Is I don't want to be rejected by you. And for me, it's in these certain areas, and for you, it's in the other areas. But it's really this core of like, I want us to be united. I don't want to be rejected.
I don't want to be wrong. I don't want to
Right.
be rejected. I
Right.
don't want to be pushed away. I don't want to be told I'm not important.
Right.
But when we feel those things, we start defending ourselves, and we start fighting. And in our
Yeah.
marriage, in our marriages, if we're fighting to win, then we're going to end up doing permanent damage. If we
Yeah.
go into a fight, to win the argument about the cheese left out on the counter and go in the drawer and on the right side and on this little, if we're fighting the text message, if we're fighting to win, we're going to end up hurting each other, and we're not going to be able to fix it.
No, so
Like Aaron, if a burglar broke into your house,
okay.
burglar got the mask on, the whole thing, he's
Yeah,
about to rob your
It
house.
ain't gonna be good.
You're going to fight that dude to win.
No holds barred.
Right.
Like they're getting poked in the eye, they're getting kneed to the crotch, they're getting the arm twisted. I'm doing it all, man.
Right.
I'm doing it all.
And if I get my 12 gauge, he's in trouble.
Oh boy. Yeah.
Pastor, shot intruder. You're right, I did. And so,
Yeah, that's right.
but it's because this man is my enemy.
Right.
And so I'm going to fight him
Good.
and not care about the damage that I do to him because I'm going to protect what's most important.
Yeah.
But sometimes we go into an argument with the thing that's most important,
Right.
and we start hurting the thing that we love the most in the effort to win.
Yeah.
We can't treat our spouse like a burglar.
No, right.
We can't treat the person that we're in relationship with, that we say that we love, without being concerned about poking them in the eye.
No, it's really good. I think for so many years of our marriage in the beginning, that's exactly what I was trying to do.
Trying
I
to win.
came from an
Right.
environment where whoever yelled the loudest and whoever gave the best argument, that's who won.
Right,
And so that's what I spent years of our marriage in the beginning, trying to be the loudest, be the one that's most heard, and be the one who wins. And what you said is so good, that this is what matters most. But there were times that I thought my winning was what mattered most.
Right.
And we have to identify, do I want to be right or do I want to be in relationship?
Right.
And so, man, it was so important for me that we had to establish some rules of engagement in our life. And one of the things was that we had to come up with an understanding of words that we would not say.
Right.
Because I will admit that in the years early of our marriage, I said all of it. Nothing was off the table. As long as it hurt him and cut him so that I would win, I did it. I said it. I would curse. I would name call. I would say, you're just like so-and-so. I would compare. I would use absolutes, like you always do it this way and you never do it that way. Man, I was willing to throw out, I'm a leave if I don't like it. I was willing to throw out words like divorce. Those are words that should always, never, ever not be, they should not be spoken. I'm saying, and now I'm confusing myself. Right. Divorce should not be spoken, but it was a word that I would throw out. And so we had to establish, okay, all of these words have been super painful.
Right.
And I've been fighting to win, but these are now words we're not going to say anymore.
Right.
You had to establish the
Rules of engagement.
rules
Yeah,
of
the
engagement.
rules of engagement for it.
So we're not going to curse at each other.
Right.
We're not going to call each other names.
Right.
We're not going to say, well, I'll leave you if you keep,
No, I'm not doing it anymore.
not doing it anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, no
Right.
threats. Rules of engagement. So Rachel and I, in a season of marriage, we had to figure out what words we won't say, but then also actions we won't take.
Yeah.
Sometimes in the heat of an argument, you can start taking action that isn't helping anybody. When we were younger, if we would get into like a really big argument and I would get mad, I would almost roar, clench my fists, and I never hit Rachel, I would never in a million years hit Rachel.
Right.
But in my posture,
Right.
Yeah.
it was aggressive, it was scary.
Yep.
There was a moment that we got so heated that I punched some holes in our drywall in our living room. And I look back at that, and do you know what? That terrified her.
Right.
That was not me saying, I'm gonna do this to you. That was me not being in control of my feelings and me just going nuts. But it causes fear in her and damage in her because now she's thinking, am I next?
Right.
Am I next? And so if you're a person who has some actions, if you're a physical person, you've got to create some rules for engagement. Don't be throwing furniture around the house.
Right.
Don't throw vases or cups or
Right.
pillows or
Right.
punch things. Don't be standing in doorways intimidating people. they're just simple rules of engagement that if we keep on doing these things, we're going to keep getting the same things.
Right. I think because we have to understand that those fears that we talked about, some of those are based in just environments that we grew up in or just
Right.
core fears inside ourselves.
Yeah.
But sometimes they are based in actual truth of what's happened before. Where I've been frustrated at him, like, why do you think that you're a failure? Why would that be what you heard when I just said, hey, babe, don't be so aggressive when they come home? It's because there's times that my words did make him feel like a failure. And so establishing rules of engagement you have to have an understanding of drawing a line in the sand of like, look, I know we did do these things before.
Yeah.
But just because we did them before, we're not going to do them anymore. Because if we don't address it and really call it out, we'll continue in that same cycle.
Yeah, and so we have to make a decision to not just keep going the same way.
Yeah.
Well, one for me was when we get flooded emotionally, to cool down, to take time to cool down. And let me explain to you what being flooded emotionally is. When you were little, let's say if you I don't know, cheated on a test and then the teacher caught you, and you felt like the sudden flooding of emotions, or if you ever stole something and you got caught, or if you were out past curfew.
Did you do all these things? You
I
little
did. I was a bad
thug
kid.
What you doing?
I was a bad kid sometimes. The moments where you get caught or embarrassed, if you were ever embarrassed, and you felt like the blood rushing to your head, and all you can think about was, how do I get myself out of this trouble, right? It's like you turn flight or flight, right? And you try to figure out, how do I get myself out of this? The fear, the flooding of emotions, whether it's embarrassment or anger or even confusion that sets in, you become overwhelmed with that emotion.
Right.
And it's almost like what you're saying is no longer logical to what is actually happening, but that those feelings are what you're experiencing and trying to get out of.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? And so you no longer are having an argument about this, because when he would yell or whatever, I would go into a state of flooding of emotions, and I would think, how dare he say that? The argument was no longer about what was actually happening. I was now trying to get myself out of the situation. And so taking time to step away or to say, hey, I need a minute, because I'm starting to feel all the emotions. So I'm going to go step over here in this next room for a minute and just kind of calm down a little bit so I can realize what actually is happening. Can be a part of a vernacular that you can start using in your family and in your arguments, because now you have time to calm down and actually think reasonably about what to do with the situation and what's actually happening.
And identifying that you're flooded in real time is super important, so that you don't start saying words that you shouldn't or having actions that you regret. I've bought and sold a lot of cars in my life, and so if you have an old car with a carburetor on it, you're pumping the pedal to try to get some fuel in the bowl, and if you flood it, it's never going to start.
Right.
And so in us, if we get flooded with emotion, we're not going to have any forward progress.
Yeah, right.
And the only way to get a flooded car to ever start is to let it sit there. Let it sit, let the fuel evaporate out, calm down for just 10, 15 minutes, and then try to start it again.
Right.
And it's the same thing in conflict, that we have to just,
Yeah,
No,
give
that's
me
really
a
good.
minute and I'll be okay in just a minute.
Yeah.
But you can also shut down. That when you get flooded, your reactions come out and how you defend yourself. Sometimes it's shutting down and not saying anything in an argument, which in turn would drive him crazy because he's a talker.
I'm a logical debater. So
Now
when
he's getting a silent treatment.
I'm getting
and he
silent
don't like
treatment.
that. Yeah.
She's being silent while I'm over here creating graphs and bullet points and strategies.
Right.
And
It's
right.
true.
yeah,
Again, that billboard list that we saw before this, man, that was a good lead in.
yeah.
but you get that list.
I'm the flip chart guy.
Yeah, you are.
And so
You're getting those
when
right.
I get silent treatment, I'm boiling and she's boiling, and
Yeah.
you just gotta calm down.
Take a minute, take
Yeah.
10 minutes.
Well, speaking of boiling, another rule of engagement is realizing your red line.
Yeah.
Realize what gets you to red line.
Yeah.
Okay, so a good example of this, I've got a commute, about a 45-minute commute to work every day, right? And when I'm driving to work and I'm in traffic and a dude in front of me just cuts me off and does me dirty. In the morning, I roll with it. I've got mercy. There's some grace there, and I don't get all worked up. But then after the work day's over, after I've had to write up an employee, I've had to do everything that my boss is wanting me to do, and all these stressors that get built up throughout the workday. Now I'm driving home, the dude cuts me off, looks way different than what happened first thing in the morning. I'm out of mercy. I'm out. I'm out. Now I'm just angry, and so you've got to realize that buildups can lead to blowups. Buildups can lead to blowups, and so something that you've got to understand is you just got to know that if you've got things that are just keep getting thrown on your back, that last straw that hits and breaks your back, and next thing you know, you're in a full-on blow-up.
Yeah.
And so that's something that I've learned. You got to just be aware of it and know about it.
We would say, I now see red. Which
Right.
means I now cannot hear anything, I cannot see anything, I can
Yep.
no longer engage in actual
I'm gonna
conversation.
fight and I'm gonna win.
But I am now fully at red line. I am
Right.
in a full fight.
And so all the things that we would talk about in a rational conversation, in the blocks that you're building in your relationship with your wife, now I'm just kicking them all over.
Right.
And knocking them all over because I'm red line and I just see red, and I'm not worried about how I say.
Right.
I'm not worried about what I say.
Right.
I'm just worried about getting my point across. And half the time, I don't even know what I'm saying anyway.
Right.
Right.
That's
I'm seeing red.
But when you're seeing red, that's when we start bringing up stuff from the past.
Right?
Yeah.
That's
Sure.
when we start bringing up things that aren't even in connection to what we're talking about.
Yes.
Right.
You're talking about putting the sandwich meat away in the fridge, but now all of a sudden you're talking about stuff that happened 3 years ago. This is not beneficial.
And so
Right.
when you've realized that, what do you do? What do you do? Well, what I've learned, for me at least, is to be able to step back.
Yeah.
Step back. I'm seeing red. Nothing productive's coming out of this conversation that I'm throwing a tantrum over. I've got to stop and I've got to step back. Now, it doesn't mean to leave. That does not mean that you leave. You don't leave. You might leave the immediate space and go into another room, or go out of the house and walk around for a second, regain your cool. You're not leaving.
Right.
You're just stepping back.
Yeah.
Yes, there's a difference there, but that's something that I've learned for me. If I'm there at red line or close to it, I've got to step back. Otherwise, bad things happen. And so
Right.
you just got to recognize
No,
that.
it's good. I think you're saying that about stepping back but not leaving. It's real important because, one, for those of us who've had parents who did leave, that's terrifying for us when someone leaves.
Or if someone's left you
Right.
previously.
If you've been
True.
left before and you now have someone leave, the fear that's elicited there, man, I can't even put all the way words to it. And so in our early years of marriage, I remember getting in a fight once over just something silly.
Right.
And I was also pregnant, so I think I was also hormonal, like all the things. But I remember I got in my car and I drove and just kept driving until I went to this parking lot of a post office that actually I'd never been to before, and
Yeah.
I kind of think I never have been to since.
We get in an argument, she leaves, and she goes to a post office.
I'm just sitting there, and then I'm more mad while sitting there because I'm like, why hasn't he come after me to find me? Well, youngins, back in the day, there was no find your friend and like tracking on your cell phone.
Right.
I don't even know if I had a cell
Don't
phone
think we
with
had cell
me
phones then.
yeah, even then. And so I was so mad that he didn't come after me, but when I finally went home, I was like, how dare you? You clearly don't care that you didn't come chase me. And he was like, no, listen, I stayed where I was supposed to be. This is our home.
Right.
I'm here so that when you come back, that I'm here. I didn't leave.
Right.
If you would have come home and I was gone, what would you have thought and what would you have felt? I'm just going to be here. There's no way I could have found you.
No, I wouldn't have found her. How many men would have gone looking for their wife at a post office?
Right? No, right? That's absurd.
It's not where
It's
you go.
absurd.
But
And so we made the decision that day, like, hey, we're not going to do that.
Right,
Like, we
right.
might say, hey, I'm going to go take a drive around the neighborhood and I'll be right back. But we're not going to just leave, not tell each other where we are, where we're going, or what we're doing.
Right.
And we hear that a lot.
Yeah.
As pastors, we hear from people all the time that say, actually, he's been gone for a day and a half. I don't even know where he is. she left and she didn't call me or tell me, and I actually don't know what happened after that. And so I think we have to understand the pain that can come from that. And so as we put the rules of engagement, don't leave. Like, don't do it.
Right. And if we just abandon ship without any like conversation of, hey, yeah, I need to take a drive, I'm gonna go get a coffee, I just need 20 minutes, and we're just gone, that creates a whole lot of other fears in the other person.
Absolutely.
Fears of abandonment, fears of rejection,
Right.
fears of being a failure. And so we have to try to not just pour gasoline on each other, but really communicate. And sometimes it's just going to the spare bedroom for 15 minutes.
Yeah.
It's just, let me go in the garage, and I'm just gonna move some junk in my toolbox around while I try to clear my head just for a minute, and it
Yeah.
can really help us calm down. And something we noticed as we were receiving so many questions, and thank you for those of you that sent them in, is a lot of the questions were ended with a statement.
Yeah.
A statement that people said things like this: it feels like my marriage is too far gone. It's never gonna be okay. We've done it all wrong. We failed each other. We failed ourselves. We failed God. We've messed it up a million times, and we can't fix it. And I just want to remind you that the Bible says that God's mercies are new every morning.
Yeah.
That's right.
That God makes all things new.
That's right. Yeah.
That if we'll take our broken pieces and put them in God's hands, that he can restore no matter what the damage is
Yeah.
that we've done.
good.
And so if you're sitting here and we're talking about fighting, you're thinking, well, what y'all are saying is timid to the chaos in our house. Well, first of all, we're giving y'all all the PG ratings of what
Well,
we've all
yeah.
navigated
Right.
together. They're all illustrations of what we've walked through.
Right.
But God can do all things.
Right.
God can restore what you've walked through. He wants to heal you. Come
That's
on, you
right.
can clap that up.
That's
we need
right.
to believe that God wants to restore what's broken.
Yeah,
doubt
this
about it.
series is called Marriage Rescue, and we're believing it. We're believing that as we engage and as we commit to be here and be a part of it, that we're growing together and that marriages are going to be rescued in this season.
Sure.
That we're going to learn some healthy conflict.
Right.
That, man, we've talked about, we've gone to counseling for years. We've learned about how we have to have, talk about how I feel, not how you make me feel. We've had to learn how to have empathy for each other's fears and recognize some steps that we need to take in order to actually have healthy conflict in our marriage. We're going to keep talking about that each and every week.
No, it's true. And look, if God has new mercies for you every morning, don't you think that I should have new mercies for my wife every morning?
Right.
We need to make sure that while we understand we're down here trying to do the best we can, but we screw up all the time.
Right.
God has new mercies for us. And so we're claiming that. We're hanging on to that. We're writing it on our mirror. We're saying, God, you have new mercies for us. But hey, you guys need to have new mercies for your spouses every
Right.
morning.
It's true.
And it took me too many years to realize that. And so whenever we get in an argument and it goes into the night and I get up the next morning feeling heavy and I jump in my car and start driving to work, I'm sitting there praying, God, please help her. Help her. Work, do a new thing in her.
Right.
Fix her. God, help her. I realized, no, wait a minute. I'm praying this thing all wrong. I
Yeah.
should be praying to God, hey, God, help me.
Yeah.
Help me. Fix me.
Yeah.
Do a new thing in me. What am I seeing wrong in this? What am
Right.
I doing wrong in this? And once I started doing that, I started feeling like, wait, I now start to feel like I have new mercies for my
Yeah.
wife because there's something wrong with me. There's something I'm doing wrong. When you do that, I think there will be a shift in your minds.
Yeah, because we're
really
going
good.
to get in arguments and there's going to be anger.
Yeah.
It's just the way
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah, you get
But-
frustrated, you get angry.
Anger's
Right.
not sin. Anger's
No.
an emotion.
Anger's an emotion from God. God gave us all of these emotions, and one of them is anger. And the Bible talks about it in Ephesians chapter 4, verse 26. It says this: in your anger, do not sin. Do not let the sun go down while you're still angry. And that verse really, I think it's broken down into two halves. So let me talk about the first half. In your anger, don't sin.
Right.
There are moments that I get angry. There's moments that Rachel gets angry. But that is not a free pass to go ballistic.
Right.
That's not a free pass to start saying words and having actions and treating people in ways that we know that they shouldn't be treated. So we can be angry and not sin in the same time. I have to think to myself sometimes, I have a daughter. And Rachel's someone's daughter, and she's God's daughter. And so to all the men in the room, men, how do you want your daughter's husband to fight with her?
That's good.
If you have a daughter, how do you want her husband someday to fight with her and to talk to her?
Like a gentleman.
like-
You want your daughter to be treated by a man like he's a gentleman towards her.
And if we want that for her, we should want that for her.
Right. That's right.
It's just that it's us.
Yeah.
Yep.
And ladies, if you have a son, how do you want your son's wife to respect him?
Yeah.
Because the way that you respect your husband should be the same way that you want your son's wife to respect him.
That's good.
Yeah.
And when we can realize that in our anger, we keep sinning against each other in ways that we would never want that on our children,
Right.
it can help us take control of our feelings in the moment.
Well, what we allow in our relationship, we model to them,
Right.
and we're giving them the permission to be treated that way.
Absolutely. It's true.
It's so good.
And so we have to be intentional for it to stop and change here so that they can see that there can be a hope for them.
Yeah.
And then we have to do our part and apologize and say, hey, we've done it wrong. This
Yeah.
is not the way it should be.
Yeah.
But from this point on, we're going to do it right.
Yeah.
Because they have to know that there's hope for them too. And so we have to be very intentional to work through what's here so we don't allow them to have what we've messed up.
Let's take that a step farther.
Yeah.
So if you have a daughter at home and they see the husband disrespecting the wife, guess what kind of boyfriend they'll get? A boyfriend that's allowed to disrespect them
Right.
because that's what dad does. We have to start looking at it that we're literally creating an example for what our children are going to think is okay in their life. And so marriage rescue is not just about our marriage. It's about our kids' future marriages.
That's true.
That what we fix in us, we're also going to fix in them.
Right.
It's a big deal, man.
You about to cry?
Yeah.
Whitney's losing it. I saw it in
No,
her eyes.
because it's true. Because for me, I look back on our marriage in the beginning and I see the hurt
Yeah.
that was caused because of things that were allowed that I watched in my childhood.
Right.
And the hope and the heart here of Living Church is that those who are planted in the house of the Lord will flourish. So what Rach said is true. There's been plenty of times to our kids that we've had to say, hey, we're real sorry.
Right. We're still doing it now.
No, right.
I
We
mean,
totally did that wrong.
And sometimes we get so frustrated because we did it wrong that it starts causing another argument.
Right.
Because we're like, dang it, we're trying so hard and we messed up not only with each other, but we messed up in front of them.
Right.
And we're trying to teach them how to do this whole marriage thing someday, how
Right.
to do it right. And when we mess up, we just get more frustrated. and
Right.
angry.
But all we have to do is say, hey, we're sorry. This
Right.
is not the way it should be. And
Yeah.
I think that's such an important. So, yeah, I got a little emotional because I'm like, no, it matters.
Yeah.
It super matters. And we have the opportunity
Yeah.
to make a new start.
So in our sin, do not anger. Or in our anger, do not
There it is.
in our anger, do not
Do not
sin.
sin.
That's right.
But the
Yeah.
second half of the verse says, do not let the sun go down while you're still angry.
Yeah.
That's good.
And I think that sometimes we could take that out of context.
Yeah.
And we could think that we need to stay up all night
No, we definitely did that for years and years and years.
and we're just
Right.
going to fight this thing out, you know.
It would be like 1 a.m. and I would be like, we are not going to bed angry. The sun has already gone down, but we
Right.
are going to keep fighting till we
No,
fix this.
yeah, no, it's true. My grandpa always says, hey, there ain't nothing productive you can do after midnight. And hey, this is one of those things.
Yeah, it's true.
You're not going to get anything.
There is one thing in marriage you can do that's productive after midnight.
Okay, we'll talk about that in 2 weeks.
We'll
in a
talk
few
about that
weeks.
in a few weeks.
Yeah, that's right.
And
No,
so
it's good.
sometimes you just got to take a minute.
You've just traumatized my daughter.
Yeah,
because
it's okay. How do you
like, wait
think
a
you
minute.
got here? How do you
Yeah,
think you
where
got
do you
here?
I know,
think you came
McKinley.
from?
And so sometimes we have to just take a minute and step back and calm down.
That's right.
No, it's great.
Because really, there's a wrong way and a right way to fight.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
There's a wrong way and a right way to fight.
Right.
It's all about our attitude, our posture in the conversation. Aaron and Whit, you guys stand up, and we're going to show everybody how to fight right. So Aaron, put yourself in a posture where you're right, you're going to win, you ain't going to hear nothing, you're the boss. Put yourself in that posture. Okay, Whit, put yourself in a posture Yeah. Put yourself in a posture where you don't want to be told nothing and where you got it and you're in charge. Now wait. Y'all are cheering. Go back to it. How do you think this conversation's gonna go?
Not good.
It's not gonna go good. And so when we're in our houses with this posture, like we ain't gonna be told anything, it's only gonna lead to chaos. But now, Aaron, put yourself in a posture of humility, of gentleness, of your ears are open, you wanna listen to what's being said. You put yourself that maybe you need to learn something, maybe you need to hear something. How do you think this conversation, whoa.
Second service.
Yes, second service. How do you think this conversation is gonna go? That we can literally position ourselves to have a better conversation. Sometimes we're standing in our living rooms, yelling at each other. We're in other rooms and walking around and we got pillows in our hands and we're acting all crazy. How do you think that conversation is gonna go? And sometimes we just have to put ourselves in a position of humility.
No, that's true, man.
You're way calmer when you sit down.
Right.
Yeah.
Notice I wasn't sitting in a chair much at SummerSlam. I'm up running around acting crazy on stage. Why? Because I'm excited about what I'm talking about.
Right.
But when we would just position ourselves, then we could really affect change, because it takes two people to fight right.
No, that's true.
It takes two people to fight right. Because if one is up yelling and jumping around,
Yep.
then man, the whole thing gets turned up.
No, for sure. If you lay down your pride and pick up humility,
Yep.
you will gain a lot of momentum in trying to solve the solution. Whatever you're going through,
Yeah.
whatever you're going through, lay the pride down.
Yeah.
If you don't, I've learned this the hard way. There's so many times that we could have not had a huge argument turn into a big ordeal if I just would have just laid the pride down. We as men, we want to be right. We're proud of ourselves. We're trying, we feel like we're conquerors, we're getting things done. But don't take that approach to your spouse, especially when you guys aren't seeing the eye to eye right now. You lay down that pride, pick up humility, and watch what God does when you do.
Yeah.
You're going to gain a lot of ground.
There's a chapter in the Bible that talks about marriage that's really important for us to understand. And before I read some of it, I'll just say that there are some Christian chauvinists that over the years have taken a few verses grossly out of context and used it to manipulate their wives.
Right.
And so I want to read it in correct context of how we should be in relationship with each other, what Aaron just talked about having a heart of humility. It says this in Ephesians chapter 5, verse 21. It says, submit to one another out of reverence for Christ. Submit to one another. Now, where we get into trouble is when people only read the next verse, that it says in verse 22, wives, submit yourselves to your own husband as you do to the Lord. So there's a mutual submission that has to happen, that we would submit ourselves to each other. Wives, submit to your husband. Here's the next portion, verse 25. Husbands, love your wives. How? Just as Christ loved the church, he gave himself up for her. So the submission that the husband needs to make is an even greater submission than the wife is called to. It says that the wife should submit herself to the husband, but the man should be willing to die to his own wants, desires, feelings for his wife. Jesus did not want to go to the cross, but he did because he loved us so much. And men, sometimes we don't want to shut our mouths, but we need to because we love her so much. Submit yourselves one to another. It says in verse 33, however, each one of you must also love his wife as he loves himself, and wives must respect her husband. That when we can have humility for each other and respect each other and submit to each other, that our marriage can be rescued.
Right.
But if we keep walking around right all the time, pointing the finger all the time, we're probably not going to make a whole lot of progress.
Yeah.
No, not at all. It reminds me of a picture or a scene from a long time ago where a young couple who are in love with each other, so fresh and so new. The guy, it starts to rain. There's a puddle on the ground. They can't navigate around. The guy takes off his jacket, lays it over the puddle, and escorts his wife across because he's willing to put himself out there so that she's able to not get wet or step in the puddle. And this is the same thing, man. You've got to humble up and say, look, this isn't about me. This is about you and how much I love you, and just trying to navigate through things.
And so I think there are some tools that we can use to help humble ourselves, so that we can have an argument.
Right.
Because you're still going to disagree, man.
Of course.
Right.
The battery in the car is still going to die. The text message still isn't going to go through. Like, there's still going to be things that happen in our relationship. But how do we have the stance of humility? Well, number one, we've got to bring God into the relationship. We've got to invite God into the argument. I can't tell you how many times Rachel and I will be in the heat of a conversation, and I will have to say, hey, babe, hold on. Can we just pray for a second? And I don't say, like Aaron said, God help my wife because she's acting crazy. Say, hey, God, help us.
Yeah.
God, come into this relationship. God, help me to hear what she's saying. Help me to calm down because I'm about to redline. God, I love her and I know she loves me and we want the betterment of our family. So Holy Spirit, would you just show up and help us navigate this? And can I tell you, inviting God into your fight is a powerful thing to do.
Yeah. Right.
Adam and Eve, when they sinned and they messed up, they went and hid from God. What they should have done is run to God.
Right.
Say, God, we messed up. We made a mistake. Would you forgive us? They should have been repentful because we serve a God who wants to forgive.
And as the wife, I think bringing your relationship to God in that looks like saying, God, help me have understanding.
Yeah.
Help me have an understanding for him.
Yeah.
And help me know the words to say so that I can better communicate to him.
Yeah.
And this is like in the middle of heated arguments, y'all. And usually it's led by him because I'm going crazy. But there's something powerful of your mind coming to alignment with God together.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you that God helps us solve. It doesn't stop. We still have to process
Right.
and walk through it. But it's more successful partnered with God.
And maybe you're here and your spouse isn't a believer, isn't a Christian. And you're like, well, how do I bring God into the dynamic when they don't even love Jesus?
Right.
It's fruit time.
It's true, man.
We just got out of our series, Fruit of the Spirit. And it's in those moments for you to say, God, help me to be kind.
Yeah.
Help me to be patient. Help me to be gentle. Help me to be loving. Because the way that your spouse who doesn't know God is going to see God is when you start acting not like you and you start acting like Jesus.
Right.
But that happens through the fruit of the Spirit. And so you have to, in the middle of the argument, say, God, help me to show fruit. Help me to show what you're doing in me instead of just what I'm thinking in myself.
No, it's true. Another tool is talk about problems when you are not mad. When you're not mad. When you're not in the middle of the argument. Because, like I said, build-ups cause blow-ups.
Yeah.
Don't talk about all the problems when you're in the middle of the blow-up. Don't do that.
Yeah,
If
but
God-
but don't not talk about the problems. I think that's
Right.
the biggest thing.
Yeah, don't just not talk about it.
Right. Don't
Talk
just
about
try
it.
to sweep it under the rug.
Right.
But do it in the right moment.
Just do it in the right timing. Timing is everything in this case. Don't try to talk about it when you're in the heat of it.
Something Rachel and I will do is we'll literally schedule a meeting to have a conversation about a hot topic.
Yeah.
And I know it sounds kind of weird, but for me as the leader of an organization, if I have an issue in the church, I schedule a meeting.
Yep. Right.
We're about to sit down and have a meeting, and I've got my bullet points, and here's the things that we're going to address to fix this issue. And that's what we need to do in our relationships. But instead, we wait until it's 10:30 at night, and we're all out of energy because we got a hard work
Right.
day, and we got
No,
cut off
true.
in traffic 5 times,
Yep.
and now we're yelling and screaming about a bunch of stuff. Well, what if we just waited until like Saturday lunch?
Right.
Like on Saturday, we went to lunch somewhere and we knew we're gonna talk about our finances, or we knew we're gonna talk about the kids, we're gonna talk about our sex life, we knew we're gonna talk about this hot topic that keeps causing tension. In those moments, you can actually start to make some progress.
No, it's for sure. And if God isn't mad at us for what we did yesterday, because his mercies are new every morning, right? If God isn't mad at us for what we did yesterday, then hey, how about this? Let's not be mad at our spouses for what they did yesterday. Let's not do that. Let's understand that there was an argument and there's plenty of fault on both sides. But just as we're redeemed and given grace every morning, from our Maker, let's make sure that we extend that grace to our spouse every morning the same way he does for us.
No, it's good. And I think another part of the stance of humility is to talk with another couple. That for years
good.
of our marriage, in the beginning, we would talk with people who were further along in their journey than us, and we would say, hey, how did you do this? Or
Right.
how did you raise your kids? Or how did you solve these problems? And then as we kind of continued on our journey, then we came alongside friends who really sharpened us.
Right.
That were friends that actually would tell us the truth.
Right.
And would actually say where we were off base. That we could sit with each other and actually say, hey, here's what's going on. What do you think? What are we missing? Just the other day, you and Trustin had a conversation where you and I had been in a disagreement.
Right.
And I'd given all the energy I could to the situation, but we still didn't see eye to eye. And he was able to talk to him, and then he came home and was like, oh, he pointed out this thing.
Right.
And I realized that is the fear that's been in me.
Right.
That's been the trigger of why I've gotten so mad.
That's true.
And the same thing vice versa 100 times.
Yeah. No, right.
I think that if you call someone a friend, I'm not sure they're a friend until you've been willing to cry in front of them.
Right.
Yeah.
Like a friend is someone that you can go to and explain what isn't going well.
Right.
Right.
Sometimes I think in our culture we call friends just people we go to the movies with.
Right.
And just people, we bought a new car, and they
Yeah.
come over and clap that we got a new
A
car.
friend is not just the guy you're going out and partying with and getting drunk with or going to movies with. That's not what a true friend is.
Right, a true friend is someone who can see the ugly and love you through it.
Right.
Right.
A true friend is someone that you can talk to when you're confused. Listen, me and Rachel have been in a bunch of battle royales, and I've called Aaron, and Aaron has never said, yeah, you're right, your wife's an idiot, women are the worst.
Right.
That's not what he says
Right.
to me.
No.
That's not what that's not what he says.
No.
He says, hey, dude, but did you say that? What you said, man, you shouldn't have said that. Iron sharpens iron as one man
Right.
sharpens another.
Yeah.
Real friendship sometimes has to have some friction.
No, it's
So
true.
we can grow. That's
The
right.
only reason it looks pretty on Instagram, the only reason we smile and hang out together in those moments, and it's actually real, is because we've also been willing to sit through the heavy and tearful moments. I don't know how many times we've posted a picture that maybe looked like the whole day was great, but the truth was we were there working through a circumstance or a situation together, and there's joy even in the pain of pruning and working through things together. It's necessary.
It's true.
It's humility. All of
No, it
those,
is.
bringing God into the relationship, talking about problems when you're not mad, talking to other people. Those are all examples of humility, but also going to counseling, letting somebody else guide you, and being a mediator of the things that you just can't walk through without it being explosion or without you not advancing through it. You know, for us, that was all of us. We all
Yeah.
go to counseling. We encourage our staff to go to counseling because, man, there's nothing more worth you pouring than time and money into
Yeah.
than your relationship. And so we hear it. People that say they can't afford it, that they don't have time. Well, a divorce sure is more expensive
Yeah.
than going to counseling once a week for 3 months and spending $100 a week. Don't go out to eat for 3 days of the week, and invest into your marriage. You got to get into the deep stuff in your own heart, in your own mind, in your own traumas, in your own experiences and relationships, and deal with what's happening in here and in here and in your past so that you can navigate through conversations in a healthy manner. So you don't hear the hurt and the fear,
Yeah.
but that you can actually walk through an argument and be productive in it.
Right.
One of the best things that we have done in our relationship is invested in our marriage. And we didn't go to counseling trying to prove to the counselor that he's an idiot, right? And we went to counseling because we were broken, y'all. We were a mess. The anxiety, the panic that was controlling my life was affecting our marriage and our family and our friendships.
Right.
And so if anything you can invest in your marriage. Go to counseling. Find a Christian counselor that can direct you back to God, because it's in that you experience one form of spiritual deliverance.
Yeah. No,
Man,
it's
I
true.
can't tell you how many times that our marriage would experience such. Man, I was traumatizing him with my actions and my
And
reactions.
it was because of what Rachel had walked through previous to me,
Right.
what she had walked through as a kid in her family. Man, we all come into marriage with baggage.
Yeah.
Right.
All of us have baggage from past relationships or from our childhood or from somewhere. And we bring that stuff in,
Yeah.
and then it affects how we interact with each other.
Right.
Right.
And I couldn't, for the life of me, navigate why she was seeing me, how she was seeing me. You preached a great message on it. What was it called? Not too long ago.
Lie detector.
Lie detector. Rachel did a message on our website, Lie Detector, and she talked about her experience of detecting the lies of the enemy, but that happened through sitting down with a mediator and having some really deep
Right.
conversations.
And the joy, man, to know that fear is not controlling our relationship.
Yeah,
That's
good.
it's good.
That when I hear him for what he's saying, not what I fear.
Yeah.
It's freeing. And to get to know myself again without the panic, without the anxiety,
Yeah.
without the having to like go about the task of my day with a heaviness in my chest, like I can't breathe. I'm learning myself again. I'm learning what it's like to live life free from
Yeah.
that. And I can't tell you enough. Do it. Walk through the hard, walk through the deep conversations, walk through the hurt,
Yep.
and walk in life of freedom.
No,
Because
it's
it's
true.
amazing, y'all.
And
It's huge.
It's the best money I've ever spent.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it is.
It's the best money I've ever spent. I would spend 10 times the amount of money that we've
Right.
spent on counseling now that I'm on the other side of real healing,
yeah.
Well,
because we have
life-
safety and freedom.
Life keeps happening.
Yeah.
We talked about the 18 months has been chaos. And so there might have been circumstances that happened in these last 18 months in your life that have then crept in. Circumstances happen.
You know, they really, yeah. So I lost my brother in a tragic accident, unexpected. He left behind 3 kids and a wife, and it shocked me.
Just a few years ago.
Just a few years ago. It didn't
Yeah.
happen very long ago. And it rattled me. I've never experienced grief the way I did there. And despite my wife's best efforts and my kids' best efforts to bring me back to who I was, who I truly am, it took me going to counseling and talking to a professional to understand what I'm navigating, what I'm going through. There are times that I'm arguing and fighting with her and with my kids that I don't even remember doing. But through grief is funny in that there's a lot of things that happen that you just don't even remember. But it took a counselor for me to come back to who I really was. And so I just want to say, if you haven't gone, go.
No,
Because
it's good.
Christian counseling.
Absolutely.
That's founded in the scripture.
Absolutely. The truth of God's word aligning with some tools to help, whether it's grief or trauma or whatever it is. For me, I had to learn new ways to be a humble spouse in the midst of walking through grief, in the midst of navigating traumas that have happened. And so we talk about it a lot, and you probably hear us and you get real sick of it. But it's because we know that it's really a necessary tool in the equation of having a healthy marriage.
Yeah.
And in finding true rescue and freedom that Jesus, yes, he can do it in an instant. But the tools that we need to navigate all the circumstances of life, a Christian counselor can come alongside you. And it's like you said, I'd give up everything
Yeah.
to have just what I've gotten
And
from
wouldn't
that.
you have wanted to do it sooner?
I wish we did it sooner.
Good grief.
If I could go back in time for Rachel and I to help her be able to deal with the trauma that she went through in her life, if I could go back in time and start it earlier, I would have.
No, for sure.
Because
Us-
why carry that baggage
No,
for a
right.
decade?
For our marriage, for that season of grief, I wish he would have started counseling the next week. We waited 6-9 months, and when we couldn't help and our kids couldn't help and y'all couldn't help, we finally all said, hey bro, this is what you need. And it was right. But man, I would say go. Don't wait until the right season, the right timing, when your schedule lines up. Make that the most important thing.
It's good.
Super good.
We spent a little extra time there. You know what I love about two services
No, yeah.
is that God says what he wants to say to a specific service in a different way. And so if you're here and you've been saying to each other, hey, we should talk to a counselor, or hey, we should talk to some friends, and you haven't done it, you just had a great reminder. You just had a great spurring in the right direction to go and deal with that stuff that's been hurting you in your life. Here's what I know about God, is he's up in heaven with a pen in his hand, and he's still writing your story.
That's right.
And so you might think that it's hopeless or there's no way that it can be fixed or repaired, but God wants to rewrite your story, and he has a great ending for you if you'll just jump in alignment with him.
Yeah.
That's true. First week of Marriage Rescue. I thought it was great.
Yeah,
I can't wait for the next couple weeks to come. But tell these guys to get back here, because
Yeah.
I know for you and I, the enemy he's a tricky one. And he was kind of getting into us and needling us. And we were getting into more tiffs this week than we have in a long time. It's because the enemy knows what's
Right.
coming on Sunday.
Yeah.
So let's make sure that we
Yeah, be
make 'em
praying
aware.
for us. You know, as you're preaching on marriage, the devil's trying to make us all mad at each other.
That's right.
Shut up, devil.
Yeah.
Man,
He's
would you
doing
guys
the same thing with you guys.
Yeah,
So
would
come
y'all
on.
stand with us as we pray and we go? Was this good for you guys today? Beneficial for you?
God, I pray right now over each person and each marriage in this place, God, that you would unify us, that you would help us over the next several weeks as we are just learning some building blocks to grow better together. God, I pray over each person, whether single or married, God, that in these relationship conversations we would learn to grow and to be more like you, that we would be more humble and submitted to your word than anything else. And so I pray over each one that you'd bring protection, that you'd bring freedom, that you'd bring healing, you'd bring answers. And Jesus, we thank you for who you are in this place. And God, if there's anybody in here today who doesn't know you, that they're far from you, God, would you let them know that you are calling them right now, that you love them more than they can even imagine. And Jesus, you came and died on the cross just for them, because you want to be in relationship with us. And so they don't have to be afraid. They can call on your name, and Jesus, you will answer and you will save. In Jesus' name, we all said, amen.
Amen. Man, such a great day. If you need prayer in any capacity before you leave, swing by the main event in the back. That's the main event of the place. If you want a free Bible, go back there and get it so you can talk with one of our elders and grow. I see a bunch of people leaving, so we've still got some work. I'm giving out $100 bills up here, so I know everybody's leaving. If you're leaving, you're missing a $100 bill. What else do you got, Whit?
No, it's true. I think that we got to understand that we did take more time to talk today. And so our hope is that you continue to stay faithful in your giving and your tithe and offering. We didn't pass the bucket today because we thought this time was more important that we would give to it, because we trust that you'll be faithful to give to God what is his. And then, invite somebody to be back over the next several weeks as we're going to grow in our relationships together.
So good.
We love you guys.
Love you guys.
See you
Next
next
week,
week.
ushers are going to have paintball guns in the back if you try to leave early.